What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully, you are enjoying this day wherever you may be and living well in the real world today. We're going to take a day off from football, take a deep breath, and do a little GoLow podcast, react to Scottie Scheffler's dominant win. If that was a football game, it'd be like winning 50-10. He wins by 8 strokes. At one point in time, he was up double digits, just an absolute butt whooping. And we'll dive into some other stuff. There were some comments made by a few players in regards to the signature events. There's one this week at the Philly Cricket Club. Some thoughts on Liv. Their ratings feel like they're getting worse, but Bryson DeChambeau won in Korea. We had a pretty major injury to a pretty big name player. And we will also answer some of your questions from @GoLowPod, which is the Instagram account, which I answer golf questions from. Obviously, we do a big one for football and life and just everyday stuff on my Instagram account. I made a separate one @GoLowPod, which I do golf stuff, and it's the easiest way to get involved on this show, which is obviously golf centric operation when we do a little GoLow. So we got the PGA Championship right around the corner, which, as Jordan called it, Rory McIlroy Country Club, which is next week. So prepare to get ready because I'm really excited. Quail Hollow, Rory, Scottie, Bryson. It feels like a 3-horse race right now. So we will dive deep into that next week because I love gambling on the majors. Nothing is better, and nothing I look forward to non-football when it comes to gambling than the 4 majors. So before we dive in to Scottie Scheffler, I do need to tell you about my friends, my partners, and the official ticketing app of this podcast. Last night I was at the DraftKings Bet Gala put on by Dave Portnoy, and I was hanging out with Mike Commodore. He actually was a guest on this podcast last summer, the hockey player, incredible storyteller. And we were watching some playoff hockey, and he was just telling me about the best arenas to see a game. There is nothing like playoff hockey. I mean, the intensity of it. I kept telling him, I'm not even a hockey guy, and I am glued to the playoffs. Obviously, the NBA playoffs, I mean, if you live in New York area and you want to see your Knicks, at minimum, they're going to be 1-1 coming home. So any game you want to go to, playoff game. We got baseball in full swing right now. We have, obviously, concert season is going. So if you want to go see some live music, get out of the house, go do something fun. Like, go enjoy yourself. Have a brewski, have a cocktail, sing some songs, dance a little bit with a loved one, with a child, with your cousin, with your mother or father. Go have a good time and do it on us. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Lowest last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, last week I was looking at the field. It was not good relative to signature events and majors. When Jordan Spieth at essentially 20-1 is the second betting favorite to win a golf tournament in 2025, that tells you everything you need to know. And my logic was pretty simple. One, if you're an elite competitor, if you're an elite player, and things don't go your way, whether you're playing poorly or whether you're like Scottie, you're trying to make some raviolis and you cut your hand, and it kind of derails the early part of your season. Now, relative to basically every other player in the world besides like Rory McIlroy, he has had a very successful start to the season. He just hadn't won. And he's coming off a year where it felt like he won 25 times. So it's like, I looked at it and went, well, he's playing a home game. He grew up going to this tournament. Now it's changed courses, but it means a lot to him. It means a lot to his family. And as a competitor, when it does feel, because while he's the number one player in the world, and I think as of this week, it's now gone on to the 3rd longest streak in the history of number ones. Obviously, Tiger holds it basically for like a decade. Greg Norman is 2nd, and now Scottie is 3rd for the longest running time as the number one player in the world. But in 2025, Rory has played better than Scottie. And going into the second major of the year, where Rory is now on DraftKings, has the same odds as Scottie Scheffler. I mean, think about the Masters. Scottie was 3-1, and Rory was like 6 or 7-1. And now I looked yesterday, they're both 5-1. And that feels right. Now, this is a course like Augusta with Scotty that is very advantageous for Rory McIlroy's game. He has had a lot of success there. But like based on the way they've played this year, beside last week, like if you want to make Rory McIlroy the favorite, I don't blame you. But I went, you know what? I do believe when it's all said and done, Scotty will be considered one of the greatest American players to ever play golf. I think he will have, I don't know if he will win the career Grand Slam, but he is going to win more majors than just win the Masters. And he's probably not done winning the Masters. If I had to guess right now, over under Scotty Majors, I'd say around 6. Like he is clearly one of the greatest talents we've ever seen. And last week was like, I think Scotty gets it done. Now, did I believe that he would annihilate the field? At one point in time, I remember texting someone, he was on like hole 12. It was Thursday. He had played 14 holes. In a golf tournament, you have to play 72. He was like minus 250 to win the golf tournament. By the end of Friday, he was minus 1,200 to win the golf tournament. That's unheard of. It's absurd. He annihilated everyone. And sometimes I think, and this is, I've taken the tactic and the I guess the outlook when gambling. Like don't outthink the room here. Don't try to hit some 80-1 guy. Bet Rory, bet Bryson, bet Scotty. And that is what I plan on doing at the PGA Championship. And listen, no I would say group that covers the sport can try to be more hipster. Like, watch out for the Thunder. They're going to roll to the championship. Like, are we sure? Their second best player weighs like 110 pounds. They're playing Nikola Jokic. I don't know, one of the greatest basketball players in the history of the sport. Honestly, I've been a diehard sports fan for 30 plus years. He's easily one of the greatest players I've ever seen. Should it be that shocking that in game one, he had 42 points, 20 rebounds, and 6 assists, and they won? They have the best player on their team, not on the Thunder. It's like, well, Shea's going to win the MVP. Michael Jordan didn't always win the MVP. LeBron had a stretch in his prime where he didn't always win the MVP. It was obvious to anyone with a working brain who the best player was. And listen, betting on golf tournaments is a lot different than betting on a basketball game or a football game when there are only 2 teams, right? One has to win, one has to lose. You were betting against an entire field. And all it takes is some random dude in that field to have a career day. Some guys did, and they didn't even get close. Scottie Scheffler essentially averaged 8 under par for 4 straight rounds. That is absurd. Jordan Spieth, who I had a little parlay. I took Scottie to win, and I took Jordan to top 10. It was not looking good. It was not going to hit. And then the guy went nuclear on Sunday and shot 9 under par. Scottie Scheffler averaged 8 under par. So it's like he went nuts and he shot 9 under par for one day, lowest round of the day, and got in the top 5, which was a really impressive day for Jordan. What Scottie just did last weekend is what Nikola Jokic does, is what Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson do. They are better than everybody else. And it's what is, I think, a big reason right now the PGA ratings are like a rocket ship. This last week with Scotty was up 66% based on last year. The previous week with Justin Thomas winning at the RBC was up, I think, like 25-30%. Obviously, the Masters was one of the most watched Masters in like a long time since Tiger Woods. This isn't a complicated formula. Get the best star players to win. And in the hard part in golf, like, you're not guaranteed that. And the cool part about golf is like, you don't necessarily need it to be Scotty versus Rory. It can be Rory versus me and you. It can be Justin Thomas versus Andrew Novak. No shade. It can be Scottie Scheffler versus Taylor Pendrith. It can be some of these random matchups. As long as you have the star, the tour, it wasn't always Tiger Woods against Ernie Els or Tiger Woods against Padraig Harrington. Sometimes it would be Tiger Woods against some guy that you would never really hear about again. And you know what? As long as it was Tiger Woods versus fill in the blank, it works. This is a star-driven sport. And right now, I think we have 3 needle movers. Scotty, clearly Rory, Scotty, and Bryson. And these guys are playing it. Bryson just won last weekend. I think Rory has a lot of momentum coming into the Philly Cricket Club. I don't know how much he's going to care this week in terms of just getting his game dialed in for the following week. Much shorter course than Quail Hollow. But regardless, this sport is dependent on its stars. Always has been, always will be. It's an individual sport. From Arnold Palmer to Jack to Greg Norman to guys like John Daly and Phil Mickelson through Tiger Woods to this crew now. And I think the tour is pretty lucky that their most famous and best players are dominating. The NBA 82 game grind is done. And now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. Can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through the finals. Now, the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been your go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will Curry drop 30? Will LeBron drop 40? Or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make the playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. I was talking to someone about this the other day, my buddy Scottie Raber, really good golfer. I was like, listen, this live thing is failing. It is dying on the vine. No one is watching. People have reported that the funding mechanism has essentially said, like, you guys got to start making money or we're going to stop cutting checks. And some of these contracts are coming up, and it's like, are they going to renew some of these guys for like $100 million, $150 million, $50 million? No chance. This thing is going to die, right? If they are truly like watching the expenses and the profits and trying to go, is this going to work? It's not. Listen, I love golf as much as most diehard golf people. It is an unwatchable product, but Bryson is really important. And for the PGA Tour, if they can get him back, I think that would be a game changer, because right now you got Scottie Scheffler in the prime of his career. You got Rory McIlroy in the middle of his second prime. And clearly Bryson is just an elite player that, is just a needle moving, interesting guy to watch play. But I think last week just wasn't that complicated. Just like sometimes basketball isn't that complicated. Who is the best player? Like, that's like, well, they go 10 deep. They got these great out of bounds plays. It's like, yeah, I got Nikola Jokic. I got Steph Curry. I got Anthony Edwards, and you don't. Scottie Scheffler's in this field, and Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau are not. So, yeah, his odds are a little lower than 3-1. They should be like minus 110. And they were really quick after about 9 holes. So, congrats to Scottie Scheffler. Very cool moment. Watching him get choked up. His family's all there. Obviously, his kid's there. His sister, he made his debut 11 years ago as a high school kid in the tournament, and he finished T25. So he's just an awesome player. Jordan Spieth, it's always fun. Like, as someone, I think I said last week that, I don't know if he's a Ryder Cup guy. He definitely still has the opportunity to earn that in more weeks. I'm not putting that much stock, again, into a field that's really shitty to finish fourth. But, he is just a very, very entertaining player to watch, and he's probably the easiest guy on PGA Tour to root for. But he had a comment that it kind of made me laugh. He's like, it wasn't that long ago that I was definitely better than him. Speaking of Scottie, because they played together in the first 2 rounds, and Scottie obliterated him. And now I'm definitely not. And it got me thinking, like, no, Jordan, it's actually been a little while since you were definitely better than him. It's been like 4+ years. I mean, we're headed toward like 60 months. This wasn't like, 2 years I was better than the guy. Like, 7 months ago I was better than the guy. This guy has been dramatically better than you for a while now. And I don't blame Jordan for, trying to justify, like, once upon a time. Yeah, once upon a time. Like last decade. But it's always fun to see Jordan get rolling. And I think clearly Keegan Bradley, who actually is hosting a Ryder Cup dinner in Philadelphia, which I would imagine Jordan is invited to, would love to see him play well because we know the pairing of him and Justin, and now Justin is essentially a lock for the team. I think he would love to bring him on the team, but he's going to have to earn it, and more showings like that. I like Jordan Spieth this week, so more showings like that, it would be really important. Another thing in regards to this dinner, he has invited Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka to the dinner in Philadelphia. So one thing's clear: a couple years ago, none of the live guys played in the Ryder Cup. Remember John Rahm right after the Ryder Cup? It wasn't right after, but within a month or two, had signed with Live. But he had waited till he played in that Ryder Cup to make that decision because clearly it means a lot to him. That's out the window. All these John Rahm is playing in the Ryder Cup. Bryson DeChambeau is playing in the Ryder Cup. Koepka, I would say, is up in the air, but he has a couple good majors. Based on the way our team looks, he's probably going to be in the Ryder Cup. And Sergio Garcia, if he continues to have or like has a good major season, would definitely be a Ryder Cup option. Now, the European team is pretty deep, but that's the right move. No one cares what tour you're on. Bryson DeChambeau should be on all the American teams. And if Koepka or Dustin Johnson or whoever, whichever one of these guys is playing well, they should be on the team as well. And I would say next year when the President's Cup happens, I don't give a shit what the rules are. Cam Smith, if he's playing well enough, should be on the President's Cup. This Mark Leishman, if he's playing well enough, should be on the President's Cup. Obviously, Bryson should be on the American team. But yeah, so I do think the Ryder Cup situation is going to be more enjoyable because the live guys are going to be invited to the party where they were not a couple years ago. I also got me thinking because Erik Van Rooyen, who finished second in and had, I mean, probably one of the better weeks of his career, he just happened to be playing with Scottie Scheffler, who was unconscious. I mean, it was honestly watching Scottie Scheffler last week look like anyone who's ever played with a really really good golfer, like a scratch or a veteran scratch or a college golfer who plays a course a lot. So is very used to it. And if you just play with them, it's like, are they even trying? And it's just like par, par, birdie, birdie, eagle, par, birdie. Like it just they never even come close to screwing up. It didn't even look like Scottie Scheffler broke a sweat. Erik Van Rooyen, who played unreal, never had a chance, but basically earned his way into the signature event this week and was asked about whether he liked the way this setup was. And he's like, honestly, I don't. Not that I'm not proud of playing well and getting involved, but the best tournaments do not have small fields. The best tournaments have 150 plus guys. And I understand golf's in this weird spot where they want to funnel. They basically want legal money laundering, right? They want to launder money legally to their, it's probably an oxymoron, but to their best players. And if you have a 150 man tournament and half the field gets cut and six of your top 20 players don't play well, they don't make any money. And Van Rooyen essentially said, like, the best part about golf is it's the ultimate meritocracy. And if you don't play well, you don't make any money. And if you play great, you earn whatever spot that you get on the leaderboard. And I'm in complete agreement. These smaller field, no cut events stink. They are just not that interesting. One problem with Live, well, they got a lot of problems. I mean, their biggest problem is like none of it matters. Part of winning a tournament is like, well, these are the last 50 guys that won this tournament. This tournament has been around for 75 years. There's a lot of history, right? Anyone who's ever been to a club or a country club, I remember I went to, I played, was it a Phoenix Country Club? It actually used to hold the Phoenix Open before, I forget what year they came to the TPC. It might have been like late 80s. So basically, from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, you walk in to the locker room. There's pictures of Arnold Palmer, of Jack Nicklaus, of Lee Trevino, of Johnny Miller, and all these guys that had played in this tournament. There was a legitimate history behind the tournament, behind the course, and now I play at TPC for 30 plus years, whether it's Brooks Koepka, whether it's Ricky Fowler, whether it's Tiger Woods hole in one, whether it's Just all Scottie Scheffler winning his first big tournament there. There's a lot of history there, and that really matters. And the Live doesn't have that, but they don't have a cut. So, like, if you're in the tournament, you're guaranteed to finish. And part of golf is what makes majors, especially the U.S. Open and the British, like it's hard to make the cut. And if you have like a shitty 3-hole stretch on Thursday or Friday, you're gone, and then you make no money. Like you make no money, right? In basketball in the NBA, I was I was at this barstool party last night at the DraftKings Sportsbook down the street from my house, and I was talking to Mike Commodore. I mentioned this earlier, but he played in the NHL for a long time. He's the best. He invited me to play golf with him here soon. He's a golf junkie, and we were just talking how much hockey players make. And he's like, I was like, I saw some salaries. It doesn't feel like your highest paid players make that much relative to basketball or baseball. He's like, I think the highest paid player in the league makes $18 million. And the Knicks Celtics series was on right next to it. I'm like, you know what's crazy? Is there's a chance that every dude on the floor right now makes more than $18 million. And there's a chance, I mean, there's not a chance. 5, 6 guys on that court make 35 to 40 plus. And during the season, whether you're playing or whether you're not playing, whether you shatter your leg, whether you're doing load management, whether you're averaging 40 or whether you're averaging 5 points. Hell, I saw Bradley Beal play basketball this year. I have never seen a guy in a professional event, in a live event, try less hard. He's making $50 million. So whether he tries really hard, scores a lot of points, whether he doesn't try at all, he's getting paid. In golf, even if you try your hardest and you do not play well, you do not make any money. Now, technically, you still make money from your sponsors, but like Billy Horschel, he is injured. And unlike a baseball player or basketball player, if I get injured, even in football, if you're making $20 million and I go on IR for 8 games, I still get a percentage of my salary. Now, that might be 50%, but I still get paid for being injured. As a golfer, Billy Ho, the Philly Cricket Club, this tournament doesn't pay him any money. The PGA Championship next week doesn't pay him any money. He doesn't make any money from playing golf. Now, he's signed. I'm sure he has lucrative sponsors, so he still has money coming in. But that would be the case for any professional athlete for their, like, if whether Patrick Mahomes plays well or not. Let's say he has the worst year of his career. That Allstate money, that Oakley money, all that money still rolls in on top of the Kansas City Chiefs salary. And I think the thing in golf, like you see Billy Horschel, he gets hip surgery, knock on wood, but like, what if that derails his career? What if he's never the same after this hip injury? Now, you would think with modern medicine and the ability to rehab and improve, and Billy Ho is clearly a pretty big workout guy, should be fine, but you never know. It's not like Billy Horschel's 22 years old, and it's just a risk in this sport. Like, there are a lot of variables that can go really bad really fast. I mean, we're seeing with Max Homa. He's just, his game all of a sudden just, what the hell happened? And in fairness to him, it's like golf. I don't know. It's just, you make a little tweak here, tweak there, and things just get off the rails. I think it's one of the most relatable things about the sport. Any human that plays, whether you're a +5 or whether you're a 20 handicap, you can, on one individual shot, you can hit the best shot of the day. You can hit the best shot of the day that looks exactly like Tiger Woods. Shot from 150 yards, you can knock it 5 feet. You also can hit a ball 3 holes over out of bounds at any given moment. And so can these guys. And I just think the cool part about pro golf, especially, I mean, specifically the PGA Tour, but I would say the European Tour as well, the Korn Ferry Tour, is you have to play well on Thursday and Friday to continue playing to make money on Saturday and Sunday. And then, like, the competition of Saturday and Sunday, typically you are going to have high-level, famous guys playing well. Maybe not all of them, but the PGA Championship in a week. I would be stunned. I mean, floored. If 2 of the 3 guys, Rory, Bryson, and Scottie, aren't heavily in the mix. And when I say heavily in the mix, I expect one of those 3 guys to win, and I'd be stunned if the other guy isn't top 3 or 4 in the tournament. It wouldn't shock me if all 3 of them are in the top 10. But there's no guarantee. One of them could just have the worst week of his life and shoot 76 on a Thursday and miss the cut. It's possible. And while they're all rich, and whether they get a check or don't, it's not going to change their life at all. They don't get paid that week. Neither does a caddy. That's why this Philly Cricket Club this week, I mean, it's interesting, but to me, I'm interested to see the golf course. I don't necessarily care about the results. I mean, this is the problem with these signature events. It's like I don't even feel like they matter. I mean, they matter for the distribution for these guys to get paid, but just in terms of smaller field, it has been like this for the last couple of years since they created these. They just don't do that much for me. I was more interested to watch can Scottie Scheffler beat 150 guys than like is Rory McIlroy gonna make $2.5 million finishing second at the signature event? I just it does not matter to me. So listen. I'm gonna gamble on this because that's what we do. The PGA Tour has never played here. I think the stat is that this is the oldest country club in America. I think it was like 1848 or something. So this course has been around for a long, long time. I did some flyovers on YouTube. I read a couple articles about it. They have done some redesigns, and the course in which they play isn't the sequence. If me or you got obviously you'd have to know a member, but we played this course. They kind of changed the sequencing of the course. It's not that long relative to tour standards. It's 7,100 yards. I read a couple articles that did some models on what is going to work at this course. Yeah, obviously Rory's near the top, but Shane Lowry, Keegan Bradley, Jordan Spieth. I do like Brian Harmon. I do think a guy like him, he has to capitalize. He did 2 weeks ago at RBC on courses that aren't that long. He's at a disadvantage playing Quail Hollow. He's not going to be able to compete there. Like Kevin Kisner was asked a couple years ago, why do you play in some of these courses where you clearly have no chance? He's like, well, finishing top 20, finishing 18th pays a lot. And I think the key is when you're a guy like that, you get 4 or 5 chances to take advantage of your skill set in this modern day world, and this is one of them. And I think Shane Lowry, Keegan Bradley, Jordan Spieth. I'm going to do probably Brian Harmon instead of Keegan, but I'm going to do Jordan Spieth the top 10, Lowry and Brian Harmon the top 20. I think it pays like 14 to 1. Uh, but listen, I think a lot of people like Patrick Cantlay this week. I can't bet on Patrick Cantlay. Like if you told me like he's got a 50-50 chance, I'm more likely to not gamble on a golf tournament than put any money on Patrick Cantlay. I've gambled a lot on golf over the last 3 or 4 years. I don't think I've ever put one penny on that individual, and I will have no problem never betting him. You can tell me he wins 10 times over the next 5 years. He ain't getting any of my money. I couldn't even imagine watching him play professional golf on a Saturday and Sunday beside a Ryder Cup and rooting for him to win. So I also have seen so many times when people have picked him and he just like finishes 17th. So I'm not touching him. Uh, Hard to make. Like, does Rory bring it this week? He was gone in Europe, then he did the media tour. I would imagine he kind of uses this as a tune-up, but if he were to win this week, which would be crazy, it'd be his third win of the year. I do think that his odds would go from 5 to 1, probably to like 3 to 1 next week. So if you do like Rory, the risk of him potentially playing really well this week, you probably want to bet him now for the PGA Championship. Let's do a couple mailbag questions at GoLow At GoLow is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs and get your question answered here on the show. Again, at GoLow. This is from Davis. I'm 26, and I like to think I'm pretty good. I'm about a 6 handicap. However, I think the golfers in the 5 to 8 handicap range are in golf purgatory. Good enough to shoot close to par, but bad enough to shoot 88 and hate yourself. I feel like it's going to be hard to break out of this range while working a job that demands a lot and only being able to hit the range once or twice a week. Any tips how to work to scratch going forward? Well, you're asking advice from someone that falls. I mean, I'm a 4 handicap right now in that category. I could go out tomorrow and shoot 74. I could also go out tomorrow and easily shoot 90. And you know what I've learned? Like, I'm never going to be a scratch golfer. I don't practice enough. I don't play enough. And I just don't have the mental stamina to focus enough, even when I'm playing a lot on the golf course. And I'm cool with that. I'm going to enjoy myself. And if I was to be a scratch, when I gamble with my friends or with other people, or this week, my guy Mark invited me to play the member guest at Arizona Country Club. I'm fired up. I am such a better asset. And I've only played in one other member guest. I was the biggest disaster in the history of disaster. I was so bad. I was topping ball. I was an embarrassment. I really was. And my handicap at the time was like a 3. It probably looked like I was a 20. I don't know if I was nervous. I don't know what was going on, but it was really, really ugly. So I need to bounce back, but there's not as much pressure. I mean, he's like a scratch, but he's really good and he can play to that number and he can break par. If I was a scratch, like I would still have 90, maybe not 90, but like 82 in my back pocket. So when you're a 6 handicap and you can shoot 78 and maybe get a few birdies, like you can make some money. If you're not going to the PGA Tour, here's the other thing. If you're working and a successful guy and you're like a 5 or 6 handicap, that travels. Like you could go play with like Justin Thomas and have a good time. I'm not even saying gambling with them. Like you wouldn't embarrass yourself. I think the key to golf, if you like actually just want to do it socially for business, have a good time, is to at minimum just get to that number. And then if you can stay, you're fine. You can play with anybody. Like I'm good enough where I can play with scratch golfers and it'd be fun. Last week, I played with a bunch of dudes that were probably like 15, 20, 25 handicaps. Had a good time. But I think if you do work really hard at it and get good, you do have to maintain that once your handicap's at a certain number if you're going to play money games with anybody. Because all of a sudden you're a scratch, like hard to make money if you're not playing all the time. So I'm going glass half full here. I think if you're like a 5 or 6 handicap, that's prime real estate. Curious what your go-to wedge is around the green. I remember being a kid when I started playing golf, my dad used to scream at me because, right, this my dad honestly wasn't a very good golfer at all, but he liked, Jack Nicklaus and Nick Faldo and Greg Norman and old school golfers. Bump and run was huge. Right. What you watch now, I mean, Phil really revolutionized the game, but all these guys that use 60 degrees around the green, Tiger, the old school guys would bump and run everything. And I always wanted to have a 60-degree wedge around the green. And like most people, I'm not a great wedge player. So if you don't practice wedges a lot and you have a 60 degree, a 56 degree, your margin for error can be really slim on a lot of shots. Where I do try to bump and run anything I can. So I have no problem pulling out either a 50-degree wedge, which is my gap wedge, or a pitching wedge. If, the gap wedge is easier to use if I'm in the rough around the green. If I have like an opening where there's no rough and I'm basically on the fairway, but I can see the pin, I will hit a pitching wedge, even a 9 iron, right? And just keep the ball on the ground. Essentially, like, and use, a putter stroke and kind of use my front hand, my left hand on the grip, and I grip it really hard so I don't break my wrists at all. But that's something that I've done a lot lately is try to keep it on the ground more because you're just not good enough if you're not playing a lot to use a lob wedge, which good players can no problem all around the green. Let me throw another fun idea your way. Really appreciate how you take DMs. The majors as love interest, the Masters, your honeymoon, always looked at fondly, more dialed up than any other time. If it happened all the time, it wouldn't be the same, but still beyond incredible. The PGA, your high school girlfriend. You say you love her, but more than likely, you don't. Once you go to a steakhouse, you realize the movies isn't that good of a date night. The US Open, your ex-wife, some absolutely incredible moments, but drives you crazy and plays jump rope with being too hard and awesome. The Open, your wife, top tier, as the game should be played. You have you have to wake up early, endure some crappy weather sometimes, but ultimately, it's the purest form of the game. I'm riding Robbie Mack this week, lefty with great iron play, strokes gained, putting at Augusta is overrated as long as is above average. This was before the Masters. I do like that. There is there's definitely something nostalgic about the Masters. And I think there's something pure about the Open. I'm with you on the PGA. Um, it's by far the shittiest major. I'd even not even go high school girlfriend. I would just go, your first true, I think the kids call it like situationship. Uh, you know, n- Someone you're dating, but you don't call your girlfriend, and ultimately it's going to end really bad, but it's really fun. Like that's kind of what the PGA is now. It's essentially a tournament that it's much closer to a normal event than it is, in my opinion, to a major. Let's talk Ryder Cup. You're the captain. Who are your 12 picks from the U.S.? Let's say all 12 can be captain's pick. Okay, I will go Scottie Scheffler. I will go Bryson DeChambeau. I will go Xander Schauffele. I will go Colin Morikawa. I will go Justin Thomas. And I will go one, two, three, four, five. And I will go Patrick Cantlay. So that's six. Then I think it gets really, really challenging. Um, I, you know, let's go USA golf rankings. It's hard to do this off the cuff without. So I got Scotty, I got Xander, I got Morikawa, I got Justin Thomas. I appreciate Russell Henley. Is he a lock? I know he won earlier this week or this year. Probably decent chance. Bryson's on it. Wyndham Clark would not be a lock for me. Keegan Bradley said that he will not pick himself, and I do think it's kind of impossible at the Ryder Cup. Tiger was a president's playing captain. What that would have been like 2018, and that was badass. Maybe it was it 19? Whenever it was sweet. I don't really think it's possible at the Ryder Cup. I just don't think our team's that good. Billy Horschel not available. Brian Harmon, he's not getting picked. Akshay, probably not. Daniel Berger, I think we're gonna lose. Sam Burns, Thagala has not been good. Nick Taylor's Canadian. Finau's played like crap. Lucas Glover, probably not. Hoagie, I think we're in trouble. I mean, you get through like six, seven names. No wonder. I don't even think. When's the last time Brooks Koepka played well? No wonder Keegan Bradley's bringing him to this dinner. We don't have that many options. Maybe Koepka just has to be on the team. I think it's going to be hard to get 12 guys. I really do. Now we got another 3 or 4 months of majors and guys to let the cream rise, but we got a long way to go. Let's say Tiger was born in '07 instead of 1975, and he's turning 18 this year. Crazy how 2007 was 18 years ago already. Jesus, that's insane. How many majors do you think he wins in his career against the current generation of players? Do you think the prevalence of social media, smartphones, and cameras would enable his vices and have accelerated his downfall? Uh, I mean, Tiger, it would be more difficult if his vices. There are a lot of famous people that run around a lot in 2025, and we don't have pictures of their situations. There are a lot of professional athletes that have families, and I've heard some stories from people in some leagues that have like full on side girlfriends that they pay for their life. And sometimes even the wife knows. But the picture's never gone viral of this individual. And let's be honest, if this picture went viral, at least the name that I've been told, it would be a massive story. Even if like the family's cool with it. And I would imagine a lot of these people, they're in relationships that do not parallel our lives. Things they're allowed to do and things that they just do are not things that normal people do. It's why I always say, like, when these people try to give me advice for politicians or just like get on their high horse, like, bro, I don't give a fuck what you think. You live in a completely different world than me. And as we've seen, less and less people view what famous people say as very important. Just because you're an actor or an athlete, no one, not that what they're saying, depending on who you are, doesn't hit home or have some validity, but especially politicians, Like we saw a lot of famous people speak out the last presidential election. It had zero to little to no impact. That you could argue that it had a negative impact. But my point is that I still think you could sleep around if you're Tiger Woods in 2025 and not get caught. It would be different. I do think he would probably get exposed sliding in some DMs. I think he would be a heavy DMer. But I think the one thing to one Tiger's work ethic is you could argue is one of the greatest in the history of athletics. Two, his desire to win was second to none. And three, technology. He played in an era where the technology, like his prime, technology really changed when late 2000s. By the 2010s, the technology that was coming out, specifically with the woods, was dramatically different than anyone that started playing golf like Tiger Woods in the 80s and the 90s. Tiger was never that accurate off the tee. It's why that he always instituted things like the stinger with a 2 iron because he knew that he could hit the fairway. And back then, you weren't hitting it as far as a whole on the PGA Tour. The courses weren't as long, and you get away with doing that. Now, I think I saw a stat. Scottie Scheffler hits like 65, 70% of the fairways. And he's hitting at 320, 330 yards. When Rory's on, like he doesn't miss that many fairways. Phil and Tiger were all over the map. But with technology in 2025, you watch Tiger these last couple years, even post hurting his ankle, he's hitting that baby cut right down the pipe. So I think technology off the tee would be he would be at 20, 25, 30 years old, right there with Rory. I mean, this version of Bryson, he did it 320, 330 yards. But like he did when he was young, he did hit it that far, but he was swinging out of his shoes. He was like Bryson a couple years ago. Now he could just swing under control and hit 325 right down the middle with that baby cut. I mean, hell, over the last couple of years when he was healthy and he'd play in some of these tournaments, he's out driving Justin Thomas. He's out driving some of these guys he's playing with. And that's at 47 years old. So imagine at 26 what he would do. He would dominate. He would have no problem dominating this era. Now, would he win at the clip in which he won? I don't know. The other major difference is he was making so much off the course that after like 5 years, he could really pick and choose where he played. Now, the purses, with the signature events he'd have to play, obviously the majors. Um, it'd be interesting what his schedule was. Probably just look a lot like Rory's. He would be. I do believe this. And listen, we've lived, if you're my age, had some unique athletes, right? From Michael Jordan to Steph and LeBron to Brady. There's never been. His name is Tiger. I mean, his name is Tiger. Like just that alone, it's like it doesn't get any better than that. Tiger. To me, it's the most iconic first name ever. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it's that 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 alone, and he dominates his field by as much as he did. It's like, yeah, there's this guy that dominates his sport, and the gap between him and the next person is the widest in the history of the sport. And his first name is Tiger. I mean, it's just he's going to be marketable immediately, and he's chiseled. He was good looking when he was young. Now he's holding on to the hair. Doesn't not quite as good, but he's never going to shave and look like me. Coming to Arizona at the end of the summer, what courses do you recommend playing? My dad and I want to get out 3 times. I hear the stadium course is TPC. There's a DraftKings course across the street. I mean, it's TPC across the street. DraftKings in the middle. What are some good bang for your bucks as well as quality? If you're coming late summer, so I'd assume August, it's so hot that the prices are it's the cheapest time of the year. I think you can never go wrong playing at minimum two of the three. TBC Scottsdale, Grayhawk, and Troon. Uh, and if depending on where you're staying, I mean Quintero is a fantastic track. I would say Raven and Whirlwind are going to be much cheaper than those courses, and honestly, pretty enjoyable. When I first moved here, I played Raven a lot. Now that's One of them's in Chandler, the other one's in Phoenix, but I don't think you can go wrong. TBC, Greyhawk, and Troon. What's your take on wearing the quote proper golfing attire? I've recently taken up golfing as a hobby, and every time I go to the course or a range, everyone else is wearing similar collared shirt and pants. I feel out of place showing up in a t-shirt and shorts. But all the golf clothes I see at stores are absurdly expensive, and I'm not sure if it's worth it since I'm just a beginner. Thanks. I mean, if you're just going to the range, especially a public range, who cares? One thing that is changing dramatically, and it's actually starting at the top. Historically, golf is by far the stuffiest sport. It's the country club, historically, where only rich people were allowed to play. That has dramatically changed over the last 10 years with the explosion of public golf courses. Then it shifted back because public golf is so expensive now, and even country club golf is obviously expensive as well because you got monthly dues. But a lot of these clubs are now like the members are my age, 40, 50, 30 years old, and go, wait, you're charging me all this and I have to tuck in my shirt. And that is something at the nicest country clubs right now that have a new, younger feel. There are no dress codes. And listen, you go into Olympic Club in the Bay Area, you got to take off your hat. No different in Cal Club. Some of these courses, Monterey Peninsula Country Club, LA Country Club, like they have old school rules, which I appreciate. Whatever you want to have in your club, if you want to have those rules, that's fine. I do think if you want to generate more interest and get more youth involved in the sport, listen, can you just wear nothing? Of course not. Can you go shirtless and play around a golf? But if you want to wear a t-shirt and a pair of just shorts, who cares? I mean, look what the PGA Tour did in the last couple of years. They allowed shorts in the practice round. Like, what are we doing, guys? It's 110 degrees. We're playing in Memphis, and there's 100% humidity. I got to wear pants on a Tuesday. So if you're at a public driving range, wear whatever you want. 1,000%. And I think if you get more and more into it, I think golf over the next 20 years, one strong prediction is there are going to be some courses that will never change. Augusta, LA Country Club, Olympic Club. Uh, I just use those two examples because those are the two nicest ones I've ever played. Monterey Peninsula Country Club. Those are going to have a stiffer vibe. But like Silverleaf, which is about 10 minutes away from me, which costs $500,000 to join. Their members are guys like Michael Phelps and John Rahm. There is no dress code. It does not exist. You can go into the grill and wear whatever you want and on any given day. Like there is absolutely, it does not exist. And that is a trend that the more and more people I talk to is growing amongst these clubs. Because if you want to attract younger people, I'm coming here to relax. I'm not coming here to be uncomfortable. And, forever, I grew up going to this club in Davis. It's right between where UC Davis is in Sacramento. And the base of the membership are literally farmers and people that work in construction. It costs like $5,000 to join the club. This is not some exclusive elitist country club. And they used to have this rule, which I think has changed. You could not wear jeans in the dining room. It's like, guys, this is not Augusta National here, fellas. Can we? My jeans are more expensive than some of my slacks. Can I just wear my jeans, even if I wear a button-up shirt? And I'm all for having just generic rules. Hey, we're having a prime rib dinner. I know I'm getting on a tangent here, but this is something that I'm passionate about. Is like I am a big believer in the dress code should not exist. Now, if you are having certain events, I understand it, and I'm not saying the PGA Tour should allow anything, but as you've seen, like over time, things change. And if you want to just wear an untucked shirt, you can wear an untucked shirt. So do not worry about what other people are wearing at the driving range. You're also right. I mean, listen, I'm in business with Travis Matthews. They just sent me a couple collared shirts. I haven't paid for a polo here in a little while. Trust me, I know. You go into these golf shops, like you walk into the pro shop at TPC, you'd be hard pressed to find a polo. Now, granted, they mark them up because they got the TPC Scottsdale logo on it or the Waste Management logo. I just don't know if you could walk in that clubhouse and find anything for under $100. And I get inflation, the dollar. We can talk about that shit till we're blue in the face. The point is, I can't find a collared for $100, and that's just a fact. And they're not alone. I mean, you go into a lot of these places. You go into the PGA Superstore, you better hope they have a sale going on. Been loving. Question for the bag. Do you think that Rory and Bryson will be a rivalry for years to come, and the separation of players will make rivalries better? Or do you think the separation of the players will minimize the rivalry? I would throw Scottie in there as well. Uh, I do think the separation, which is going to end, whether that ends in 2 years, 5 years, a year, I don't know. No one seems to have a great grasp or understanding or even inside knowledge of what is actually going to happen. I saw Rory had some comments today, or maybe it was like last week with Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or wherever. I mean, CNBC, it was Squawk on the Street. He's like, yeah, I don't think we're in a huge rush to do a deal because they think that they're bleeding dry. Not because the Saudis are going to try to run them out of money, but like, sometimes when you're a little kid and you're like, go back to your parents for a little bit more money, and they say, no, I already gave you $20. I remember one time when I was a really little kid, probably like 12 or 13. I was going to go to the movies with some of my friends. And this is probably, 90, mid 90s, 95, 96, 94. And back then you couldn't just like, you didn't pay with things with a debit and credit card, right? So when you went somewhere, you needed cash. And I think hey, dad, can I get 10 or $20? I'm going to the movies. At the time, a movie ticket was probably like $5, $6 for a little kid. And popcorn was probably 3 or 4. And he didn't have any money. And it's like anyone my age knows if you need some money from your parents, which if you're a kid, you don't have any money of your own, that if they just didn't have any cash, like there's just no cash coming from it. You're just not going to have any money. So maybe you ask your friend if you can borrow some, maybe his parents pay for you, but if they won't, like you're kind of screwed. And it was I don't know if it was around Thanksgiving holiday or Christmas holiday, and my grandma, uh, God rest her soul, she had some money. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the movies. And my dad's like, oh, can you give him some money? And she handed me like $2. And it just shows you, like in her mind, I mean, I don't even know when the last time she'd been in the movies. Who knows? It might maybe have been like the 70s or 60s. Thought that a little kid would be able to get in the movies for $2. I remember my dad like kind of laughing in the background, but I don't even know what that story had to do with anything. Question for the pod. Did you ever play Pasatiempo Golf Club when you lived in the Bay Area? If so, how was it? If not, are you familiar with the name? It's the last question. I played it one time. I remember would have been like 2018 or 19. I would just go on Golf Now every once in a while, and they would have these hot deals. I think they still have it, but this is way before golf got crazy. And I looked, and I had heard about this course for a long time. I had never played it, and I saw Pasatiempo because you could just do like a 60-mile radius from where you live, and it would give you the best courses by rating, the cheapest, the most expensive, and it had like a deal of the month, and it was Pasatiempo for like $90. And I was like, I did it. And I think it was like a Wednesday at 7 a.m. And I played with his dad and his son. Super nice guy. I think the guy had played at like Stanford back in like the 60s. Enjoyable guy to play with. And yeah, course is sweet. I mean, it's for those of you that don't know, it's a really really nice. It's a public course. I think it's like half public, half private. Kind of down in the Santa Cruz area, probably I don't know, 45 minutes, hour north of Monterey. Um, it's a sweet track. So yeah, yeah, I've played it. I remember I probably shot like 50 on the front. I got there. I didn't even hit balls. Just went out and played. It was hard. It was cold. And then I settled down and started dominating in the back. Maybe shot 40, but it was just an enjoyable round of golf. Um, I remember being pretty empty. I think the 18th hole is a par three, which in my life is the only time I've ever experienced that. And I remember the ninth hole, it kind of is like an uphill, I think par five, headed toward the clubhouse. And I had sprayed it into the first hole because it parallels the ninth hole and the first hole parallel each other, going opposite directions. And I remember hitting this sand wedge toward the green, and I took the biggest divot in the history of divots. And I mean, it was massive. It must have been like 3 feet and like 2 feet depth. And I remember I didn't pick it up. I just walked toward the ball because I was kind of mad. The ball didn't go very far. It definitely did not go on the green. And the people that were playing the hole started screaming at me. People playing one because the people I was playing with couldn't see me. They were on like the opposite side of the green. And yeah, it was a pretty embarrassing moment. So make sure you fill your divots if you can.